Are you staying for the GT Cup? All right. Yeah, well, it's Qualy, so the qualifying session is pretty brief. So we're about to go. You were saying yesterday Matsushita was doing something to warm his tyres up in the pits. Didn't do anything like that for the final one, because they were all just sat in the pits. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hungaroring for qualifying for the second of this weekend's races for the GT Open Cup. And as you can see, very different conditions at the circuit to yesterday. Although the clouds are beginning to part and the sun is beginning to make its way through, it's quite a bit cooler at the Hungaroring. We had an enormous downpour overnight, which has really taken the edge off the air and the track temperatures. So the ambient temperature is about 24 degrees at the moment, and the track temperature is only around 28 degrees, which is a fair bit cooler than we saw during yesterday's qualifying session and yesterday's race for these GT Open Cup cars. We have got 20 minutes to sort out the starting order for this afternoon's race. It's exactly the same format as yesterday if you saw us, with the only difference being that in these two-car teams, we now have the second drivers out for the qualifying session. Of course, we have a few one-driver teams out as well, who will just have the same drivers out for this second qualifying session. So we can expect to see a bit of a different starting order. There goes the car which took pole position yesterday. That is the Lamborghini Huracan of Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, which Edoardo Liberati put on pole position 24 hours ago. But today it is the job of his teammate Hans-Peter Koller to qualify that car. So we'll see whether they end up. Liberati put the car on pole position by over 2 seconds yesterday, but this is one of the Pro-Am driver lineups, so of course there is a difference in driving standards, and so we will see where Koller is able to put the car. But that is one of the things which helps enliven these GT Open Cup races, is we see such variation between the drivers and of course between the cars as well, because the championship is open to a roster of different machinery from different single make series. We apply a balance of performance calculation, make adjustments to things like the weight levels to help them all compete on a fairly level playing field, and that generally proves a recipe for some very close racing indeed. Victor Blujon just coming into frame. He is piloting the number 74 Martinet by Almeris Porsche 991 all by himself this weekend, and yesterday he wielded it to excellent effect, finishing in second place. In fact, he was chasing down the race leader Hans-Peter Koller throughout the second half of the race, and the pair crossed the start-finish line separated by less than a second in an entertaining end to yesterday's proceedings. So we'll see what Blujon is able to do. on his second day in the car, and he's currently being followed by one of the Mercedes AMG GTRs. That is the Sport and U car of Marco Basso and Guillaume Salas, and it is Salas at the wheel of the car for today's qualifying session. And of course, the number 2 drivers who participate in today's qualifying session will also be the drivers who start this afternoon's race. Just coming into frame, that is Faust Salom in one of the McLaren 570Ss run by Theo Martin Racing. He is in the final sector of the lap. As ever, qualifying at the Hungaroring, particularly critical because we know overtaking can be very difficult, although at least with these GT Open Cup cars, their strengths and weaknesses can vary so much that we do tend to find it's a little bit easier for the drivers to overtake than in some of the high-performance single-seaters they're sharing the track with this weekend. We're yet to see the first representative laps come in, though I, in Murray Walker style, interrupt myself to correct myself as Glauco Solieri pops up the first time of the qualifying session with a 1:51.660. The driver who won the amateur class yesterday in his Lamborghini Huracan for Antonelli Motorsport takes an early lead on top of the times. But we are only a quarter of a way into this session so far. So also out on track we have Victor Bloujon, who pops in second, 1.3 seconds down. Home Font in third place in a Porsche 991 run by Bapora Motorsport, although he is knocked down into fourth by the other Bapora Motorsport car, the Audi R8, with Daniel Diaz Varela at the wheel. So there is Salas making his way through the twisty first sector at the Hungaroring, although really all 3 sectors are pretty twisty around this track. But the one they're coming up into now features more of the medium and high-speed corners. Turn 4, here it is. They slightly blind, crested left-hander. The car's nose then dips under braking for the long looping right-hander at turn 5, which tightens up ever so slightly on exit and invites drivers to use too much of that runoff at the exit of the corner. Then there's a pokey little right-left chicane where we saw a couple of very optimistic braking lunges during the race yesterday, and then into a series of left and right corners, which is a very challenging sequence indeed, where drivers often have to sacrifice the exit on one part of the corner, and there's JP Mauro doing just that in order to ensure they have the best possible run through the next part of the lap. The Lamborghini Huracan driver accelerating his way through the second part of the second sector, which ends with this very quick right-hander at turn 11. He then crosses the line, and that measures where he is relative to the opposition. And he has just gone fastest of all the drivers through the first sector, done a personal best in the middle sector of the lap, so this is shaping up to be a good lap indeed for JP Mauro in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan into the final corner. And Guillaume Salas has just lowered the best time to a 1:49.120. What does JP Mauro have in response? He goes up into second place, just 0.3 of a second slower, with a 1:49.449. So it's Guillaume Salas on top in the Sports and U Mercedes AMG GTR, and it's JP Mauro for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing in his Lamborghini Huracan. And next up is Niki Leutwiler in his Porsche 991 in third position. Our top 3 covered by 0.7 of a second, which, when you consider that pole position yesterday was won by over 2 seconds, is quite a lot closer than we had 24 hours ago. So we pick up the 4th placed McLaren of Tiago Vivacqua. This is another of the Theo Martin cars in that distinctive and very smart blue and white livery. He is coming towards the end of the lap now. Vivacqua has been improving his time throughout this lap so far, but he needs to find 1.7 seconds to move his way further up the provisional starting grid. And he finds 1.2 seconds, so he stays in 4th position, but gets his lap down to a 1:50.420. We've got a couple of drivers vying for position at the end of the lap. One of the Porsches ducking into the pits, and Faust Salom in his Theo Martin McLaren 570S coming around the final corner now and trying to make his way up from 12th position, which he does, and he goes 4th and displaces his teammate from that position. The pair separated by just 0.2 of a second, but our provisional pole sitter Guillaume Salas is improving fastest of all through all 3 sectors on the lap. That's an excellent time by Guillaume Salas, a 1:47.873. He is now clear by 1.5 seconds at the top of the timing screens. JP Mauro remains in 2nd place and also posted an improvement, although not a very large one on the previous lap. And Mauro is 1.2 seconds away from pole position as things stand. We have had a few drivers having their time deleted due to track limits violations, including Guillaume Salas, but it was one of his earlier considerably slower efforts, not the 1:47.873 that has him at the top of the times at the moment. So there is Hans-Peter Koller in the car that took pole position yesterday, currently running in 10th position, but improving on this lap and into the final corner. His best effort so far, a 1:51.778. And he deploys the Lamborghini's horsepower to full effect out of the final corner and does improve and moves up into 7th position with a 1:50.907. And Guillaume Salas, our pace setter at the moment, there he was just going through the frame, has backed off a little bit on this lap. So not flying at the moment, but Nicky Leutwiler, who we take a look at now in 3rd position, is also trying to improve, but also not on a particularly quick lap at the moment. So quite a few of the drivers not finding much in the way of improvements right now. So it's still Guillaume Salas quickest ahead of JP Mauro, Nicky Leutwiler, Faust Salom and Thiago Vivacqua, the 2 Teo Martin drivers. And in 6th at the moment is Fernando Fortes, which would be a fine qualifying effort for the Victor Colombe 360 Racing Mercedes AMG GTR. Currently on course for 6th place. Our provisional pole sitter Guillaume Salas heads to the pits, and here is Nicky Leutwiler coming out of turn 4, rear end first. Spectacular stuff and a very nice save indeed. Victor Bloujon in his Porsche also getting a little bit loose over at the exit of turn 11. Bloujon not showing a great deal of the pace that he had yesterday, currently well down in 11th position. So with half of the qualifying session done, there is still half of the qualifying session left to go. And we are now looking at the Audi R8 of Daniel Diaz Varela, run by Baporo Motorsport. Currently holding on to 7th place in the grid, but it is very tight in the middle portion of the grid at the moment. He is just a few tenths of a second, and in fact it's got even closer as Hans-Peter Koller goes up to 7th place in front of him. Diaz Varela needs to find just 18 thousandths of a second to improve his starting position, but he might not do it on this lap because he is a bit slower through the first sector than he has gone before. But 2 drivers who are improving are the pair currently in 2nd and 3rd positions. That's JP Mauro and Nicky Leutwiler. Both have improved their runs through the first sectors of the lap. And there is Fernando Fortes now up to 5th place in the other of the 2 Mercedes. But this doesn't look like a pushing lap for him. No, it's not indeed. He has backed off on this one. But further back on the track, but ahead of him on the timing screens, the other Mercedes of JP Mauro is on a quick lap right now and improves to a 1:48.50 now. So that drastically reduces the gap between 1st and 2nd places in this qualifying session. Mauro now 0.636 seconds off our pace to Guillaume Salas, as off at turn 2 goes Hans-Peter Koller and getting very close to the barrier. In fact, did he just swipe the end of the barrier there? Or did the car just straighten up? It was a bit hard to see from that camera angle, but he was certainly a lot closer to hitting that barrier than he would like to have been. Koller is still continuing around on this lap, but we'll see if he heads for the pits with 7 minutes to go. But now JP Mauro is finding more time in his car. Currently in second place, the Mercedes driver goes fastest of all through the first sector. Guillaume Salas, our provisional pole sitter, is still sat in the pits with 7 minutes remaining, but I'm sure if Mauro continues to improve in this form, then Salas is going to have to come back out onto the track to defend his pole position. And here is Mauro working his way through the middle part of the lap. The Lamborghini Huracans didn't seem quite as quick through this portion of the lap as they did through sectors 1 and 3 yesterday, but we have had a big change in track conditions overnight, so we'll see if that has also changed the performance profile of the cars a little bit. He heads out of sector 2 and he's done a personal best time in the second sector, so this is looking very competitive indeed from JP Mauro. And is this going to be the lap that moves him to the head of the times? Nicky Leutwiler in third place did do a personal best lap time on his previous effort, and Mauro actually had his previous time deleted as well, so he's dropped a little bit further away. But let's see what he has on this lap and whether it is able to stand. He is a little bit wide at the final corner. He drives for the line and sets a 1:48.088. That is just 0.2 of a second off the pole position time set by Guillaume Salas, so that trims JP Mauro's gap to our current session leader, and Thiago Vivacqua giving the McLaren a bit of a hammering over the chicane, and it did look as though that front splitter may have worked ever so slightly loose on the right-hand side. And we'll see what he does. Pierre Martinet in the one of the two Martinet by Almeras Porsche 991s, and he's got a car approaching quickly behind him. Victor Blujon has another lap time deleted for track limits. He is... well, that lap time did put him in 8th position, so it's going to drop him back down again. Here is Blujon. So let's see how he does with the track limits around this lap. He is down into 12th position now because of that deleted lap time. The exit of this corner has been a problem for quite a few drivers, but he's giving the track plenty of respect there. Brakes hard for the chicane. Neat line over the curbs. But Blujon, who's just done a personal best through the first sector, is really in need of something of a banker lap now to grab himself a position a bit closer towards the sharp end and then start really pushing for a fast lap again. He comes out of turn 11, another point on the track where we've seen a lot of drivers having lap times deleted for track limits violations, but Blujon keeping it neat and tidy there. So all being equal, I think this should be definitely a lap that improves and definitely a lap that counts as well. The last two corners of the lap at the Hungaroring are very, very long, constant radius corners. The drivers just waiting patiently to be able to gun their cars out onto the straights that follow, and Blujon does just that and heads towards the start-finish line. It is a big improvement for him. He takes third place with a 1:49.451. It's 1.5 seconds off the pole position time and puts him on top, and a bit of a problem with the door on one of the McLaren 570Ss. That's Faust Salom in the Theo Martin car, and his left door opening, and it's open again. He's having difficulty getting it shut, and I think that's probably going to force him into the pits, and that's going to be a big disruption to his efforts at the moment. Glauco Solieri has just gone fastest of all in the final sector of the lap and posted a 1:49.014, which moves him up to third place at the expense of Victor Blujon. Meanwhile, JP Mauro has headed for the pits, and with only 3 minutes remaining, that leaves him with very little time to get back out and try to improve his lap. So as things stand, we have Guillaume Salas and JP Mauro fastest, but both still in the pits with just over 3 minutes remaining. Will we see a late splash and dash run for those two drivers? Glauco Solieri, who you're looking at the moment, yesterday's amateur class winner, is in third position in his Lamborghini Huracan. Then we have Victor Blujon. Nicky Leutwiler is currently in 5th. And the Vincenzo Sospiri racing team are very pleased with the efforts of their driver, JP Mauro. But it looks like he is done for the morning. Now, there is the Theo Martin McLaren that had the problem with its left door earlier on. Has that now been rectified? Certainly seems like it has. And Faust Salom is getting on with the business of trying to improve on his 6th position. He has just gone fastest of all through the first sector. His team manager has been requested to report to race control. I think that will probably be something to do with why the left door on that car was flapping open. Salom, though, having gone quickest through the first sector on this lap, is not quite as quick through the middle part of the lap. Let's see what he has as he comes around to the start-finish line. Glauco Solieri and Victor Blujean have both improved their times, but they stay third and fourth for the time being and are over a second off our pace setters. And Faust Salom does improve his time as well with a 150.069 and is in 6th place. And had a little bit of interaction there between Glauco Solieri and Faust Salom earlier on in the lap. Here is Victor Blujean, just done his personal best time through the first sector of the lap. So let's see if he can improve in sector 2. He's a little bit wide. He's very, very wide, actually, going through turn 5. I don't think he ever really got hooked up with the apex there. He brakes hard for the chicane. That corner he does make. Then it's a short stab on the power before he gets into the left-hander of turn 6. Compromise the exit a little bit, hook up that curve on the inside of turn 7, use the full extent of the track, and does it as well on his way into turn 8, which is very quick and short. Turn 9 is slightly sharper, but he doesn't run too wide at the exit of that one and presses on. But Blujean, sure enough, hasn't improved his time through the middle sector of the lap. With that line through turn 5, I'm not surprised at all. And that surely means that as Solieri heads into the pits and Blujean's challenge fades, that the last remaining challenges to Guillaume Salas are done, and sure enough, Victor Blujean peels off into the pits as well. So we've now got quite a few drivers in the pits and no one on track improving. We have got half a minute left for someone to come around and start a lap time and make a bid for another improvement, but I think only Faust Salom and Daniel Diaz Varela, who we're looking at the moment, going to be able to do that. And Home Font actually has started a new push lap as well. And here he is in the Porsche 991, currently in turn 5 and currently also in 9th position. Gets turned in nice and early for the chicane, runs perhaps a little bit harder over the second part of the curve than he would like. The checkered flag has appeared, so this is Home Font and everybody else's last opportunities to improve. He's quite wide at the exit of turn 7. The nose of the car dips as he brakes for turn 9, which is a really quick turn. Then there's a decent length sprint down to turn 12. And into the final part of the lap now. He has improved his time through the first and the second sectors. So Home Font looking to move up from his 9th position with what is going to be the final improving lap of the session, I suspect. So Home Font comes out of the last corner and moves up into 7th position with a 150.193. With that, I think most of the serious action is now behind us in this session. Lionel Curti is out in his Porsche 991. The Tsunami driver comes past the start-finish lap line, but it is not an improvement for him. He stays down in 12th position. And Faust Salom is still out on track as well. There's Daniel Diaz Varela, but he is touring on his way back into the pits. So it looks like we are done and dusted with this one, and pole position for this afternoon's race is going to go the way of the Sports and U team. Vincenzo Sospiri Racing having to settle for 2nd position ahead of Antonelli Motorsport. And Martinet by Almeras. And then it is Nicky Leutwiler's Porsche in 5th position. Yesterday's pole sitter has traded it for an 11th place start for Hans-Peter Koller. So here are confirmation then of the final times. It will be Guillaume Salas on pole position for this afternoon's 55-minute race in the GP Open Cup for the Sports and U team in his Mercedes. Then we got a pair of Lamborghini Huracans starting behind JP Mauro and Glauco Solieri. Those cars were really quick at the start of the race yesterday. A pair of Porsche 991s follow them. Sorry, a Porsche 991 of Victor Blujean, the Porsche 911 of Nicky Leutwiler follow them, followed by Faust Salom in the McLaren 570S for Theo Martin Motorsport. Completing the top 10, Home Font, Fernando Fortes, Tiago Vivacqua, and Daniel Diaz Varela. We have just got Home Font cruising his way back into the pits at the moment. Here's a look at our top 3. So there is Guillaume Salas accelerating out of the chicane. Let's hear from our pole sitter.
Guilherme Salas back to the GT Cup and pole position at Hungary.
The lap was very good. The car was amazing, and let's go race now.
How do you see the race this afternoon? It will be, it's a big advantage to start first.
Yeah, big advantage, and I needed to push hard and.
Good, thank you. Em brasileiro, saludar os amigos e a família Brasil.
Abraço para os amigos aí brasileiros que estão assistindo aí. A classificação foi uma volta muito boa, uma volta rápida só, e agora na corrida um desafio muito grande e vamos para cima.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Well, as you can see, the sun now starting to come out at the Hungaroring. It is heating up ahead of this afternoon's race. Do join us at 1:45 European time for the second race for the GT Cup on the live stream and on TV. From me, Keith Collentine, thank you very much for joining us. See you again shortly.